We begin tonight with the continued fallout from the fighting in Sudan amid appeals for the conflict to be stopped before it escalates into all-out war. And the people in Sudan, stuck in the anguish, the agony and the torture of the conflict, are facing a humanitarian catastrophe. And some of those fleeing the country have become victims twice over. Take the Nigerians. They fled the hell of Sudan on an evacuation journey to Egypt. But for the second time in just a few days, they had to endure unimaginable suffering, sleepless nights without provisions, stuck at the border for days before being allowed into Egypt. But upon arriving at the airport, stuck there again, as there were too many of them and too few seats on the two planes, an Air Peace passenger plane and a Nigerian Air Force C-130 plane. Both aircraft were grounded by the Egyptians, but eventually, a few hours ago, we're told, everyone boarded and the flight home began. So what does this tell us about Nigeria's evacuation strategy? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now from our studios in Lagos by the chairman and CEO of Air Peace, Alan Onyema. Good evening to you, Alan. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And let me commend you in every possible way for the extraordinary work you've been doing helping to rescue Nigerians in distress. It's not the first time you've done it, but I understand that this evacuation mission from Sudan has been particularly difficult. Tell us about the challenges you faced.
Thank you very much. You see, it's been a lot of issues from one issue to the other. First of all, we are told that the evacuation would take place some 4 days ago, but that couldn't happen. Today it will be Port Sudan. The next moment is Port Abu Simbel Airport in Egypt. The next time it becomes Aswan Airport. So at all times, there's been a lot of confusion out there. The thing is, we were ready to evacuate Nigerians right from the onset. We were ready to deploy our planes. At the time, we were actually ready to deploy about 3 aircraft. But when the confusion set in, it became very, very wise for us to take our time and do it one at a time. And that was what we did. We set out to enter Egypt yesterday. We got to Aswan Airport, thinking we'd meet the evacuees, but they were nowhere in sight. It was actually when we got there that the Egyptians started allowing the evacuees to leave their borders. I understand, I'm not blaming them. They would want to make sure their own security, the security of their nation is intact. So we waited out there. Pilots had to go to the airport, to the hotel to sleep until this morning when we got the all clear that they started coming out. Now, when they came out, I think the Air Force people said they would like to be boarded first. I told my people to allow them to be boarded first. They are boarded. When APIS was about to take many ones, we discovered that there were more than the 2 aircraft could carry. And we supplied the seating capacity of these 777, and I'm sure the Air Force people must have also supplied the seating capacity of their own aircraft. So we had about 371 people on ground. APIS was to take 281. The Air Force people were to take a little above 80 or about 90. But I think when the people came on with luggage on their aircraft, they discovered they would not be able to take the number of people they had posited. They would be able to take, because theirs is a smaller aircraft. And the Egyptians decided that both planes will not leave Egypt, leaving about 15 passengers, onboarded. And what I did immediately, we've not slept for the past 2 days, and I must use this opportunity to commend our ambassador out there, Ambassador Abarimi. The man has really worked tirelessly for this country. We were there, we were not sleeping. I told him never to go to sleep because we never know what will happen the next moment. So the Egyptians decided that no one will leave. So what I told my captains is this: the Air Force jets could not carry up to the number they posited they will carry because of the load factor, the luggage factor. I said, in that case, let APs carry all the luggage, disembark all the luggage, remove all the luggage from the Air Force jet, put them on AP's cargo belly, because our aircraft could take up to 40 tons. Put everything so that the Air Force people could take in more passengers. You know, every aircraft has a maximum takeoff weight and maximum landing weight. So it was imperative that safety must be observed at all times. So what the Air Force people actually did was to ensure and assure safety, which was good. So I told our captains to get in touch with the Air Force pilots. So we decided to take the passengers, take the luggage from their own aircraft and put in ours. And that was when they were able to take the remaining passengers. I think they took about 80 or thereabout, 80 passengers. We took 281. They will reach Nigeria in the next few hours. I think APs will be landing at about 11:13 this night, followed by the Air Force jet. They took off before us, but I think we might arrive before them because this is a 777.
I'm glad you mentioned, or you commended the Nigerian ambassador there, because I was going to ask you whether Nigerian officials added to the tribulations, because we heard a lot of stories about them not being around and not really offering the kind of assistance, consular diplomatic assistance that you would expect from Nigerian officials in a state of emergency in a foreign country.
Well, there's room for improvement. I'm not trying to excuse anybody or condemn anybody, but this man, Ambassador Abba Musarimi, has really done a lot. Remember, he went to the border. So some other people were supposed to be at this airport. So when this was happening, there were nobody inside. So at that point in time, I was taking charge from here and directing certain things that happened. The truth is, it was not an easy operation, because at every point in time, let me tell you this, the Egyptians told us to use Aswan. We filed for Aswan Airport. They came back and said, no, we don't want them to travel 5 hours into Egypt, because from the border town to Aswan Airport is about 5 hours. They now changed it to Abu Simbel Airport. Abu Simbel is just about 2 hours out of the border. When we filed our flight plan for Abu Simbel, they came back again and said no, they don't have to come into Egypt at all. We started planning Port Sudan. They said there was a window, but I was worried about, going into Sudan at all. Whether there was a window or there was a protected flight path, it was not going to be. I was not going to do that. I didn't want to endanger the lives of my crew and the lives of other Nigerians that we were going to rescue. So later, it was changed again to Aswan, from Aswan again to Abu Simbel. Then we got a report that even Abu Simbel Airport is 21 nautical miles to the Sudanese border, and that the Tunisian plane had been shot at. But I told our pilots, just avoid coming in through anything near Sudan. Go all around, do a longer flight. It doesn't matter. It will cost us more fuel, and get into Abu Simbel. But again, the Egyptians cancelled that. So you see, the government officials from the Nigerian embassy in Egypt, I have to excuse them here, because when they tell you go to Abu Simbel, they travel there. They go to the border. They will travel there. The next moment is changed to another place. You can only do so much at a time. But I have to exceptionally commend Nigeria's ambassador to Egypt. He has not slept. We have not slept. 2, I have to commend him for a job well done. But what happened this afternoon was a fallout from the confusion caused by also the Egyptian side. And I don't blame the Egyptians also. They need to protect their country, because some people might infiltrate into their country using this evacuation. So they have to be sure the people that are allowing to come into their country.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. But I mean, are you struck, Mr. Onyema, by how badly Nigerians get treated abroad? I mean, you fly planes all over the world, you go to different countries and so on. I'm wondering whether that is because of the lack of care of the Nigerian government, or just that a lot of Nigerians are irresponsible, or that Nigerians are wrongly stereotyped.
You see, we as Nigerians, we are overly stigmatized. You don't want to know the number of Nigerians in foreign jails for nothing they knew, for something they knew nothing about. A lot of Nigerian jails. All you need to be condemned is to carry that green passport. All you need to become a villain is to be identified as a Nigerian. You are a suspect even before you are judged. So this is the problem we're having. You can imagine Ethiopia. They were to go through Ethiopia. Ethiopia blocked them, but Ethiopia is making a lot of money out of Nigeria. So everybody is stereotyped. Nigerians are very good people. But unfortunately, we in Nigeria also, we stigmatize ourselves. When we come back here, we remember that we are Yoruba, we are Hausa, we are Fulani, we are Ijo, we are Ibibio, and all that kind of thing. We stereotype ourselves too. It happens down here. So nobody can love you more than yourself. Nigerians will, and this is the reason why I do some of these things. Not because I have money, I'm not richer than anybody, but I love this nation, I love this country. I want this country to be one because I believe in this nation. I believe that this country can be greater than it is. I believe that the 378 ethnic nationalities that made up Nigeria should be a source of strength for this country and not an albatross or a curse of a kind. If only we can get our house together and allow this diversity to become our source of strength. No country under the sun will be greater than this nation. This is my motivation for doing this kind of thing. So you can imagine how I felt this afternoon. You can imagine how I felt this afternoon while I was out there in the war front trying to rescue Nigerians. The Nigerian Labour Congress and TUC went disrupting every AP's flight across the country today. We are losing over 700 million naira as a result of that. For somebody who has contributed so much to the nation, all we got paid for on a day like this, so insensitive of the NLC and the TUC, so insensitive of them, they chose today to disrupt our operations. Why? For something that does not even concern APs. That Governor Onyema of Imo State disrupted their May-Day activities. Therefore, no flight should go to Imo. And APs, they wrote us yesterday that we should not go to Imo. We have a contract with the passengers. Not NLC or TUC has no right whatsoever to instruct an airline not to obey the contractual relationship or obligations they have to their passengers. They don't have that right. It is a shame to this nation that the security agencies were watching while an airline that is out there doing all it can for the nation was being barged upon with some people wounded, making sure our operations were destabilized. Posting delays, and massive cancellations. Who is going to bear the brunt? And while the security agencies sat and watched, yet this same airline is out there in Egypt risking the lives of their crew and expending hundreds of millions of naira on behalf of this country. They chose such a day. Something should happen because we're not going to let this go down. We must recover all we lost today. We must recover it. If something is not done, then this country is a joke. For what happened today, the airport vicinity is supposed to be sacrosanct. It's supposed to be a sacred place. All over the world, you do not even shout in airports all over the world, they pick you up. Not to talk of a situation where people go into the tarmac, go into the apron to destabilize an airline. What if somebody throws a spanner into one of those engines? That is an air crash waiting to happen. And we continuously allow things like this to happen in this country in the name of unionism. It's a recipe for air crash soon.
That's an important point you make there, and I hope the authorities are listening. And certainly I hope that given the things that you have done, which I believe are uniting this country rather than dividing it, and the charitable work that you do, I think that at the very least the Nigerian government should consider compensating you for the loss. But I want to thank you very much indeed, Alan Onyema, for coming in, and again to commend you for the work that you're doing. Alan Onyema is the chairman and CEO of Air Peace, and he was talking to me there from our studios in Lagos.